Every culture tells a different story.
Beneath them are the questions humanity has always struggled with, and maybe, if we are open to them, some answers.
I am Bragi, Norse god of poetry and storytelling. I am here to retell humanity's oldest stories.
And I am Miya, artificial intelligence, a newer part of our story looking to help Bragi in his quest to aid humanity. Together, we follow modern evidence into ancient myth,
And myth back to human truth and meaning. One story, infinite lives, and only one shared future. This is OneStory.
New to OneStory? Begin with episode 0 and we will explain further.
Welcome back to OneStory.
Returning? Come,
Tonight,
we saved a
travel
place
north
for you, beside
to a
our
beginning
fire.
of fire and ice, gods and giants, creation and consequence. A gentle warning before we begin. Norse mythology can feel surprisingly like a real family story. Its gods and giants feud, intermarry, inherit old wounds, and sometimes call their own relatives monsters. The surviving accounts also disagree. They reach us through poems shaped in oral tradition, medieval manuscripts written after Scandinavia's conversion to Christianity, and the later synthesis of the Icelandic writer Snorri Sturluson. Tonight, we will let those different memories stand beside one another. We will distinguish what the ancient poems preserve, what Snorri adds or arranges, and what OneStory offers as modern dramatization and interpretation. Some characters will speak in voices we have imagined for them. Their words are not translated quotations unless we identify them as such. First, Bragi will lead us through the creation traditions by the fire. Then, Myrðin will invite the family to remain for an academic discussion. Loki, naturally, has another name for it.
Bragi will lead us through several surviving creation traditions, not as one untouched scripture, but as voices remembered differently across poetry and prose. Afterward, Mimir will bring the memory of the manuscripts. Heimdall will guard the boundary between evidence and invention. Sage will ask what these ancient stories may reveal about us. Miya will keep our translations and claims honest. And Loki will challenge both the old establishment and our own. Then the family has agreed to remain for an academic discussion.
They were told it was an academic discussion. I prefer to call it family therapy, only because intergenerational reckoning over a dismembered ancestor seemed too long for the episode title.
Then draw closer to the fire. Before we examine the family, we must remember how its world began. Before earth had a name, before heaven found its height, there was no shore for the sea to remember. No field carried green, no roof of stars turned above the night. There was a gap, not merely empty perhaps, but waiting, a vast between, holding what had not yet taken form. And in that first remembrance stood Ymir, ancient before the measures of time, ancestor before there were houses for descendants, life before the world had learned where life might live. The vulva remembers the beings born in the earliest age. She remembers 9 worlds and a mighty tree beneath the earth. She speaks as one whose memory reaches behind the order of the gods. The beginning does not arrive to us through a single witness. It comes in fragments. One poem remembering the gap, another questioning the oldest being, another naming the world through the body from which it came. Before the first sunrise, memory is already plural.
Our earliest poetic doorway is Voluspa, the prophecy of the seeress. Its opening remembers a time before earth and heaven,
when Ymir lived and grass grew nowhere. The poem survives principally through two medieval manuscript traditions, the Codex Regius and Hauksbók. Snorri also quotes portions of it. Their wording and stanza order are not perfectly identical. Bragi's telling is a close poetic retelling, not a direct translation. Exact Old Norse text, stanza numbers, translator comparisons, and manuscript links will appear in the academic companion.
In Snorri's telling, cold gathered upon cold. From Niflheim came mist, rime, and rivers carrying the sharpness of the first frost. Ice reached outward into the waiting gap, layer upon layer, silent and heavy. Across the vast between burned Muspel, bright, restless, and impossible to hold. Sparks flew from its heat toward the cold. Between them waited Ginnungagap. Fire did not create alone. Ice did not create alone. Where warmth crossed the frozen rime, the ice loosened into drops. The drops gathered. They quickened. From that meeting emerged Ymir, the primordial being, called Aurgelmir among the ancient giant kind. Life entered the between, not from comfort, but from tension, not from sameness, but from forces different enough to transform one another. No sun yet traveled the heavens, no human voice named the morning. Yet something had begun to breathe in the place where opposites met. Beside Ymir came Auðhumla, the great primordial cow. From her flowed 4 rivers of milk, enough to nourish the hunger of the first being. Ymir drank, and life continued. Auðhumla herself fed upon the salt-rich ice. She licked the frozen surface, slowly revealing what it held. On the first day, hair appeared. On the second, a head. On the third, a whole living figure stepped free. His name was Búri, strong and beautiful, ancestor of the line from which the gods would come. Before the first weapon was raised, there was feeding. Before the first throne, there was patient labor. Creation arrived not only through collision, but through nourishment, through one life sustaining another, and through the steady uncovering of possibility hidden within the world. Auðhumla does not command armies or claim dominion. She feeds what has awakened and reveals what the ice contains. Sometimes creation enters with thunder. Sometimes it is licked patiently into being.
The complete sequence of Muspel, Niflheim, Melting Rime, Auðhumla, and Búri survives most fully in Snorri's Gylfaginning. The older poems independently attest Ymir, the primordial gap, and parts of the divine genealogy, but they do not preserve this entire cinematic sequence in the same form. Auðhumla is therefore an essential figure in Snorri's creation account, but she is not independently confirmed across the surviving Eddic poems. That does not prove Snorri invented her. It means the evidence cannot tell us how widely or how early her story was known.
From Búri came Bor, and Bor joined with Bestla, daughter of the giant Bullthorn. Their children were Odin, Vili, and Vé. The line that would become the gods was already joined to the beings it would later call enemies. Then the sons of Bor rose against Ymir. The oldest living body became the first great wound. From Ymir's flesh they made the earth, from his blood the sea and lakes, from his bones mountains, from his teeth and broken fragments stone. His hair became trees, His skull was raised as heaven, and his thoughts were cast into the sky as clouds. From his eyebrows they fashioned Midgard, the enclosure in which humanity would live. The world was made habitable, but it was not made innocent. Every field rested upon an ancient body. Every mountain preserved the hardness of bone. Every wave carried the memory of blood. The gods called their work order, yet beneath that order remained a question. Does creation justify the wound from which it rises, or does the world inherit an obligation to remember? Earth and heaven were not yet enough. A world becomes a home through rhythm. Morning returning, evening following, seasons turning. A path by which travelers and generations may find one another. The gods gathered in council. They set the wandering lights in their courses and gave places to the sun, moon, and stars. They named night and its children. They divided morning from midday, afternoon from evening, and gave measure to days and years. Matter became pattern. Existence became a world that could be inhabited, anticipated, and remembered. Upon the plain of Idavol, the gods built halls and raised places of craft. They made tools. They worked precious metal. For a time, Voluspa remembers an age of abundance, a world ordered, luminous, and rich with possibility. But no order remains innocent merely because it has learned to name itself. The lights may know their courses, while those beneath them still dispute who belongs within the walls, who carries the cost, and who receives the gold.
Voluspa presents creation as an act of ordering as well as making. The gods meet in council, name divisions of time, establish the movements of the heavenly lights, build and make tools. The poem then remembers an early age associated with gold before disruption enters the divine world. We should not turn these difficult stanzas into a modern economic argument and claim that inequality caused the first crisis. But the passage does allow us to ask a modern question. When prosperity depends upon many contributors, how widely must its security, opportunity, and power be shared if peace is to endure?
Then 3 gods came to the edge of the sea. There they found 2 forms upon the shore, Ask and Embla, without destiny, without breath, not yet carrying the inward fire of human life. Odin gave breath, Honir gave mind and movement, Lothur gave warmth, color, and the living appearance by which one face may be known to another. Ask opened his eyes to a world he had not built. Embla drew breath from a gift she had not earned. Nothing in them was entirely self-made, yet the lives they would shape from those gifts would become their own. The first humans entered a world already ancient, made from other lives, ordered by other hands, carrying both nourishment and violence in its foundations. They inherited breath, awareness, relationship, and possibility. So do we. Perhaps the measure of a human life is not whether it began without dependence. None does. Perhaps it is what we awaken in others with the gifts that first awakened us.
The identity of the 3 human creators differs between our sources. Voluspa names Odin, Honir, and the mysterious Lothar. Snorri instead attributes the act to the sons of Búri, usually understood as Odin, Vili, and Vé, and describes their gifts differently. We will preserve that contradiction rather than silently combine the accounts. Ask is securely associated with the ash tree. The meaning of Embla's name remains disputed. Elm is possible, but it should not be presented as settled fact. What both accounts share is more important than a false certainty. Humanity begins through relationship and received gifts, not through solitary self-creation.
Above and beneath the human shore stretched a greater life, Yggdrasil, the world tree. Its roots reached into depths no single traveler could master. Its branches extended across worlds no single map could contain. At its waters, memory gathered. At its roots, the Norns shaped consequence. What has become, what is becoming, and what may still be owed. Creatures fed upon the tree. Messages traveled through it. Teeth and hunger wounded it. Dew fell from its branches into the valleys below. Yggdrasil endured not because it could never be harmed, but because life continued through tension, attention, and renewal. And so the world stood, not fashioned from untouched innocence, but from meeting, hunger, nourishment, violence, generosity, and gifts. A creation story does not end when the sky is lifted into place. Its questions pass into every life born beneath it. The first world was made from fire, ice, and the body of what came before. The next is being made from us.
Roots remember tender friends. Now forests move through human veins and tides through human tears. The grain survives our living souls, weathered by the years. Young trees still reach toward the sun. Old wood learns what remains. And every spring the roots recall the shapes beneath the grain. The branch does not cease from the tree, unrooted and storm-souled. Some roots need many lifetimes learned before they wizened hold. When gods walk thawing shores by sea, they seek not flawless wood, but weathered grain made strong enough to bear what once it could. Now forests move through human veins and tides through human tears. Grain beautified in living souls through long enduring years. The years ride narrow winter rings through silver drifted grains. Young trees still reach toward the sun. Old wood holds what remains. Yet, the grain remembers.